All right, welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I'm really excited for today's episode because we have a very special guest, Lan Nguyen. Lan, how you doing, ma'am?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. I had a good lunch, and I am eager to learn more about you and your practice. So, with that being said, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, sure. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm licensed in both California and Texas. I specialize in trauma. I kind of like to think of myself as a professional secret keeper and your human blind spot detector. So, as maybe even a lie detector, let's be real. Some people be lying to themselves and to each other. And
Mm.
I tell it like it is. Yeah, that's how I would describe a little bit about myself. I'm a therapist, so do with that what you will. But I do, by HIPAA and all that confidentiality jargon, I do keep your secrets. But I hope that you can learn from our time together. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Lan, who do you help the most in your practice?
I would have to say basically people like me, Asian American Pacific Islander, millennials with imposter syndrome, perfectionism. They're burnt out from their career, or maybe they're doing a career transition. They got people pleasing issues. They have aging elderly parents that they don't get along with, unresolved grief, whether it be from like a relationship, their childhood, their family, social anxiety, difficulty expressing their emotions, regulating emotions, perfectionism, all of that and more. But yeah, if that tells you a little bit about who I used to be, uh, recovering perfectionist, recovering people pleaser, that's who I am. So those are the people I help because I've been there, I get it, and I'm here to meet you where you're at.
Yeah, wow. It sounds like you help a wide range of people out there in the world, which is awesome. And thank you for sharing that. I think as therapists, we're kind of reluctant to share our own, issues from the past, or like
Yeah.
you said, yeah, we're recovering, and so thank you. I think that's really cool that you share that with people because it means a lot. I think people crave that also.
Mm.
Um, so if somebody is reaches out
Mm-hmm.
to you and they want to partner with you, what is a like how do you make sure that you're a good fit for them and that they are a good fit for you?
Well, I would ask them their in and out order. I'm just kidding. But that does, if they like Whataburger more than they like In and Out, that's an issue. I'm sorry, my Texas folk. How would they know? Usually I would say you can kind of tell based on if you like follow my Instagram and you think my professional, but it's not that professional Instagram is funny or relatable or you're learning something. I'm very candid, I'm very relational, conversational. I get silly. Um, so within a 15-minute phone consultation, I offer those for free. If they, we talk about their issues, we talk about what's kind of ailing them, what they would like to work on, improve on. Based on how they respond, how I respond, you can kind of gauge chemistry, fit, all those good things. That's how I would kind of get a better idea of whether or not we would be a good fit. Um, but yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Lon. Out there in the mental health world, there's a lot of specialties, things like
Mm.
Gottman, CBT, EMDR, all these things, right? For those of us that don't really know anything about those modalities or those approaches, how would you describe your approach?
Yeah, great question. I do think my approach, like I said, is very conversational, collaborative, very, very relational. I would hate for the other person to feel like they're talking to a wall or to like a holier than thou sort of, I've never been there, I'm speaking from a textbook sort of answer. Um, so I just kind of hope to operate from a place of humility, if that makes sense. So while I do have training in EMDR, I'm getting training in Gottman Level 1 and 2 for couples therapy. I'm certified in trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. Those are all things that I can like put on my CV, my resume, whatever. But I just want them to know that, they can come to me feeling safe and seen. I'm speaking oftentimes from my own lived experience or what I can say after, working with X amount of clients. This is what I've seen over time. Um, But yeah, very collaborative, very strengths based, we have fun. I think there's a lot of laughter in our sessions. There are some tears there too. It's not always going to be easy, but I do think that's my approach. It's warm, it's direct, it's challenging, but it could also be very, gentle and empathic.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, what I'm hearing is that you are trained in a lot of these specialties out there. However, that kind of takes a back seat to your relationship approach with your client. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I'd say that's fair. I
Yeah.
do think the person comes first. So they're not just, like formulas. They're not a math problem to be solved.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, really cool. Lon, so let's say somebody partners with you and they like what they hear on the phone. They feel like it's a good fit. They can really appreciate your style. And
mhm.
then they show up to the first session. What is
Yeah.
the first session with you like?
Well, by then, I've already gotten them through some intake paperwork. So some of that intake paperwork would look like, family history. Who did you grow up with? What sort of issues are kind of plaguing you? What symptoms are you experiencing? Have you had mental health issues or help before? And all of that stuff should be out of the way. I should have reviewed it already. So when we get into that first session, it's really getting to know each other. Um, but I like to really go in for the jugular. I go in straight for, what sort of goals do they have? How can I help them kind of formulate those goals? How can I help them reach those goals and make sense of what they're trying to get out of working with me? So our first session could look a lot like, where would you like to see yourself in 6 months or maybe in 6 years, right? Long-term goals, short-term goals, and how might my role be in connection with that? How can I help you meet those goals?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great, Lon. Yeah. Um, you know, as as a clinician, that progress isn't linear, right? A lot of
Right.
clients, I think, show up like, "Oh, how long is it going to take? Like, what do you think? 8 weeks, 12, and it's hard to put a timeline on it.
Oh, yeah.
How do you prepare, if you do, clients for the inevitability that progress may look like taking one step forward and a couple steps back?
That's a hard one because honestly, I don't know if clients are always ready to hear the answer. It really comes down to fit again. I think by then I've probably built enough rapport where I could be kind of more direct and say, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want you to waste my time. I really want you to make the most out of our time together. It's only once a week, at most, or, once a month or whatever. But the idea being, I don't want you to be like a sitting duck on a pond, just like pedaling your feet, going nowhere.
Mhm.
So I will often ask those questions, review goals, review progress. And if it doesn't feel like they're making progress, how might they be getting in their own way, right? Because I am only meeting with them, 1 hour a week or so. And if that's the case, what's happening between sessions? What might they need to learn or practice or implement or consider between sessions so that we can actually make some headway?
Yeah, that's awesome. And it sounds like you really are intentional about asking for feedback. Is that right?
As much as I would like the feedback, I just don't know for some of my clients, right, who struggle with people pleasing,
Mm,
if they're able to give that feedback as honestly as they can. And that's
yeah.
what I'm hoping to build, right? A space where they might be able to say, ouch, that hurt, or,
Mm,
I don't like that,
yeah.
or that sounds too difficult. But I have had clients say, like, as much as you've provided me tools and resources, honestly, I don't know how realistic I don't think I'm going to do them, and that's fair too. And so I let them know, like, I just had a conversation with a client yesterday about a sense of a lack of urgency. Hey, where am I going to help you if maybe you're not working as hard as maybe I am? So
Mhm.
I can't be doing more work for you. What would you like to see done? What do you want to work on? And then we
Mhm.
gathered that she just wanted a space to process her emotions,
Yeah.
her feelings out loud. She's an external processor. And so it really helps to kind of bring clarity to what she's going through.
Got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. which leads right into my next question, Lon, and that is, how do you know when it's time to graduate a client or that a client is kind of ready to transition out of therapy?
Again, I think back to goals, really depending on what they came in there for, how things have progressed. For instance, I've had clients come, you know, maybe right as they were laid off from a job, and that was really tough on them. Maybe their identity was really built around their workplace, their career. And so I think part of that is, once they got a job, some of them felt ready to take a step back, right? So it really just depends. I think a lot of it comes down to, what do we end up spending most of our time talking about? If there's nothing really to talk about, and I will ask those questions like, hey, what are we doing here, right? If we're just talking about like what you've been watching on Netflix, I mean, it's fun and all, right? But I don't think you want to be paying this amount of money or utilizing your insurance to kind of have like a friend. But I don't know, maybe that is something we'd work on. Oh, maybe they are feeling lonely. Maybe they do need some more support as friendships go. And so we can work on, how do I transition you from like holding my hand to walking independently?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it sounds, as you're saying all that, it sounds to me like there's just so much nuance with how the client is reacting to the progress, what's going on in their world, and if they're ready, yeah,
Right.
definitely. Um, Lon, if somebody is listening to this and they're hearing your style, they're hearing your approach, they're hearing how you kind of progress through therapy with the client, but they're reluctant to reach out and partner with
Mm.
you just because they've never reached out to a therapist before, what would you want them to hear?
That I get it, that I've been there too, right? I, like many of my clients, have been the first kind of people in our families, in our lineage, to really like sit in front of a therapist and do that hard inner work. So I would validate that. I would really make sure that they understand like it's tough. I really acknowledge, and I commend all my clients for doing that first hard and scary step of just asking for help, admitting that they don't have all the answers. Starting something new is scary. The unknown is nerve wracking. So I would want them to know like they're not alone in that feeling. But I love working with people who have never, I like to call them future cycle breakers, right? Maybe our parents never got in front of a therapist, but we can. And maybe we can do some of that work to undo some of the trauma. And so that we don't pass on as much to our future, community members, family members, children, etc. But I would want them to know that investing in yourself is like the best thing you can do. And I know a lot of people will do everything but, right? They would rather run like an ultra marathon, do 50,000 cold plunges, and, get like a billion tattoos, rather than do the hard inner work. They'd rather like, punish themselves kind of physically. And that's great and all, but I do think there's a limit, right? So yeah, I do think that the inner work is probably the most impactful sort of gift that you can give yourself and for future generations.
Oh, yeah, that's so good. Yeah, thanks for that, Lon. I really appreciate it. I like to switch gears if that's okay.
Yeah.
I like to ask, what's on the horizon for your practice?
I am not entirely sure, but I'm thinking more towards groups. If it's not obvious by my surroundings that are crazy, chaotic, and plagued by a little toddler Godzilla, um, I'm a single mom, so I need to find ways to work, but have time to raise my son on my own. So um, I'm thinking of like doing more groups so I can reach more people all at the same time. I'm thinking about even diversifying and reaching out to other therapists that are struggling with marketing, struggling with learning how to land podcasts, learning how to, um, niche down if they wanted to, learning how to script or even writing copyright for their website or for their promotional material. I'm so, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of like a jack of all trades or something, but I love doing that stuff. That stuff does
Mhm.
not intimidate me. I loved making my own and tinkering on my own website. I love writing in general. And if people don't like writing, like, you know, like I could be your little ghostwriter. I don't mind. But yeah, that might be where I'm kind of transitioning to, ways to make passive income. So that might also mean creating and releasing digital goods, which I've just thought about. But, you know, I have resources that I could offer, whether it be like a Google app script for a Google, you know, workspace code or something for their workflow, or maybe resources like handouts. I love making handouts on Canva. So I would love to help therapists, the next batch of therapists, kind of come through and not feel intimidated about that sort of stuff, because I find it to be fun.
Oh, you know what? And it's so crazy that you say that because it's so true, right? Like there's so much that goes into setting up a practice, especially a group practice,
Yeah.
the marketing material, the systems,
Hmm.
the scripts, the Google, the website, like all those things. And so, if you're watching this, hey, hit up your girl Lan. She might be able to help you with all of those. It's in
Yeah.
demand, you know, for sure. And I'm really grateful that you're offering that to the community because it is in demand and it's so important, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lan, I wanted to ask, what motivated you to be a therapist in the first place?
I think if you want the short answer, I could just say it's trauma. But if you want the long answer, um, a combination of trauma and, you know, what I would deem post-traumatic growth, right? Doing that work just because I knew that there had to be better out there. I kind of wanted to give back in such a way that I was not exactly given, navigating the mental health care system, kind of the first go around. My parents, you know, bless their hearts, they did as best they could. But you know, I didn't get therapy weekly, and not that that's the cure all, but there wasn't a lot of quality in what I was given. Also, the people culturally didn't align, so they would give me very like simple, like just don't listen to your parents, just choose your own major, like don't listen to them. And I'm like, if it were that easy, why am I in your office? And
Mm,
just a lot of cultural nuances were lost because they might have been like a Caucasian therapist speaking from a different, you know, sort of cultural lens. But knowing all of that and knowing that, wow, you know, teen Lan really benefited at least from one person seeing me and helping me through some really pivotal moments in my life.
yeah.
That gave me a lot of drive to pass that on, kind of complete the circle, right? So hopefully, I imagine myself giving back in that way so that people can say like, oh, I actually did, you know, have a great like advocate, a great teacher, a great guide that walked me through some really tough times in my life. And they didn't have to necessarily go at it alone the way I may have felt at one point or another.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. I like to kind of go back to our client work and ask, what has been the feedback from the clients who actually complete their course of therapy with you?
Oh my gosh, I love this question because it really brings a lot of gratitude thinking back. I don't feel like I've been that great of a therapist, but I mean, I've had great feedback from clients to say, you know, I love it when they're like, whoa, I never thought about it that way. And I kind of stop them in their tracks and I get them to think a little bit more critically or deeply about a particular habit or belief system that they've long held on to. And so, oh man, like it's great to hear that they've been able to take away from, you know, they've been able to have some level of progress. So I've had clients come back to me, whether they work with me or not, right? After I had my maternity leave, some of my clients didn't return, but they would say, hey, Lan, I had a client who had some sexual trauma. And so she had recently emailed me to say, Lan, I really know that the work that we had done in EMDR did help because I experienced way less pain at my pap smear. And she's been going to like a pelvic floor PT and specialist for years. And I was thinking, I mean, maybe the only change that was different was that we tackled some of that body-based um, tension and pain, and we kind of worked through it with some EMDR, and that was incredible to hear. So ways that I've been able to improve my client's life, maybe I've been able to open their eyes to different possibilities. Like one of my clients, we had talked, she was feeling intense burnout with where she was working. She had been applying to places. The last time I spoke to her before she went on vacation, she was applying to like basically her dream job. She emailed me back this week to say that she got her dream job and she's pregnant. And that had been like her last baby was her miracle baby, because she's experienced several miscarriages. So I was just blown away, like so much had changed. And she just thanked me profusely. And she said, she's not looking to come back to therapy at this time. But I was like, girl, you don't have to. Like, you're doing great. Like, you're living the life. A lot of her stress was due to her work. So it was just really great to hear that she was in a place that really aligned with her.
Yeah, that's incredible. And thanks for all that, Lan, because it just, all that great feedback from your clients, really kind of indicate that and are a testament to the quality of work that you provide for them. And
I
that's
hope
really,
so.
yeah, that's incredible. And that's one of the things about our field, that we're not ethically allowed to ask for reviews. Like, we just kind of
Yes.
leave it, but just hearing some of your feedback here that you've heard from your clients is really incredible. I appreciate that. Lan, yeah, I wanted to go back to your practice and ask, are you in a group practice now, or are you in a private practice?
I'm in a solo private practice, and I've been that way since I launched. I just kind of hit the ground running. Maybe it was foolish, but yeah, I was actually primed, and I actually was accepted, and I had gone to a group practice, and they were basically trying to get me to onboard. But what had happened was my license had not yet transferred. So I had moved. And so my license didn't transfer yet. In that 2 to 3 month time frame where my license still needed to be transferred over to the next state, I launched my virtual telehealth practice solo, and I've just kept it that way since. Yeah.
Well, that's so cool. And yeah, that's you're like in the top 10%, because, or I don't know what the percentage is, but very few clinicians, this is the point I'm trying to make, are will do that, because there's so much hesitation, and there's this rhetoric, this narrative about like, just join a group practice, join one of the big platforms, it's easier, just get your foot in the door, blah, blah, blah. And like very, very few will do what you did. Yeah, that's so cool. What has the experience of doing your solo practice been like?
It's been so rewarding. I mean, again, I just can't imagine what else I would be doing. There's just so much. I mean, there are days when I log off right after a session, and I'm like, I truly feel like, wow, this is what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. Like, I feel like there's true purpose and intention behind my work, and it feels great. But yeah, the overall practical side of launching the business, I think partially I went into this pretty ignorant. And I think maybe, again, ignorance is bliss. So it worked out to my favor. I had not heard that rhetoric yet about joining a group practice, this, that, and the other. The main concern that I had at the time was like, how am I going to get health insurance? Like that sort of thing. Like, I don't have health insurance from, my family. My husband was, contract or whatever. And so I didn't have health insurance kind of guaranteed and built in. And then I was like, okay, what about like a salary? Like, do I want that? Do I want, what pay structure do I want? Like, you hear about these like awful kind of group practices that are like undercutting their employees, kind of taking a bigger share. And I'm like, I'm hearing that now, but back then, maybe I just was blind, but it was good. I just kind of jumped into it. I didn't know what I was doing. I started off, maybe my first client was through Open Path Collective, and I really recommend that platform, because I used it myself as a broke grad student. So yeah, there was just like a lot of learning, but I had a lot of fun figuring it out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are you thinking about maybe adding some staff in the future?
I've talked to other group practice owners about this, and given my limited capacity, I don't think so. Honestly, I've heard that while maybe in the long term, it could be very lucrative, in the short term, you're basically, like it's another baby, right? Like, I already have a 2-year-old, so I'm good.
Yeah, one baby's good, one at a time. Yeah,
Yeah, one at a time. Yeah, that's all
yeah.
I can handle right now.
Yeah, super cool. Lan, well, yeah, this has been a really great episode. I really appreciate you coming on to the show and sharing a little bit about yourself and your practice. How can people connect with you if they want to partner with you?
Yeah, great question. A great way to reach me is on my website. It's my first name, last name, lcsw.com. So Lan as in Mulan without the mu. So Lan, my last name, Nguyen, or other people call it Nguyen or Nguyen or however you want to pronounce it. It's Nguyen, NGUYEN for licensed clinical social worker. That's how to reach me. My website, you have my Instagram. It's supposed to be a professional one. It's very unserious. So feel free to hop on there to see a lot of memes, a lot of just random things. Honestly, I use it kind of very loosely, and maybe I don't know if people would recommend that, but I have fun. But it's Lan Nguyen LCSW. That's where my Instagram is. You can also find me on TikTok. I just made a TikTok. I've not really used it, but it's the same thing, Lan Nguyen LCSW. So those are like my main socials. I mean, you could find my Facebook page, or I don't know where else you could my Google my business. I think I'm out there. My website, my Instagram are my go-to.
Got it. Yeah, thanks for that. And I'll make sure to add those into the show notes down below. Awesome. Lan, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. And maybe we could do it again in the future. How does that sound?
That sounds great. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining. Signing out.